Yeah, with this most recent unfortunate event in massacre in Texas, um, I was able to hear very interesting comments coming from the governor Abbot. So this was a very peculiar event. So after the, of course, the shooting ended and everything, settled down. That's when people started to question and to demand answers from the authorities. So they assembled something very strange. It was like a big council meeting with the governor, and I think it was the sheriff there. And actually, that's the video. And I will leave all links and all references, which will come later. But you will see it as a cover for this video. By the way, the covers will be much better, and the whole visual aspect will be much better soon. So stay up, stay updated with that aspect. Um, Anyways, so they assembled in this council like meeting, but with a lot of people, obviously, and there was that competing politician. I don't remember his name, so he also came there and made a sort of a scandal where he, of course, demanded answers. And to me, it seemed that he was really the porte-parole um, of the general opinion, and because this can't go on. I mean, in their viewpoint, I think the majority of people in Texas, especially in that small town, they really think that this can't go on like this, with shooting here and there, and with record shooting. What would be the next, the death toll of the next shooting? Where will it be? Things like that. So they're angry, and that guy, the competing, I think he's a Democrat, probably. These guys are Republicans, Abbott and his crew. Um, sheriff, and all those persons. So they demanded us answers from him, and of course he came out as a you know de facto defender of the conservative values of uh, let's say old Texan values, and defended all the people actually who would lose a lot if guns were regulated more in Texas. So it's not about issuing a ban on weapons. I mean, yeah, weapons are not even banned here in Serbia, where I live, but they are regulated very strictly. And you can buy and own a gun and shoot it on ranges. It's not a big deal, and you can even probably, uh, you know, no one would harass you for going and shooting a gun somewhere in the wilderness, where it's safe. I mean, where you made sure it's safe, of course. But that was a digression. So it's about regulation and not about issuing a ban on weapons. But the issue here is, of course, that a stricter regulation would mean less money for some people in Texas. And Governor Abbott is, of course, defending these interests. Of course, he doesn't say it like that. He says something completely opposite, and that is actually the point of my interview of this short discussion, because I noticed that people might be interested in it through other social media. And I really found interesting this, because the wallpaper for this cover for this video is actually the very a result of my search for Texas school shooting, something like that, and plus mental health. So this is what I got. Uh, the first video, and I didn't cut this. This is directly from YouTube. This was the first Result: so Texas school shooter bought 2 rifles days after turning 18. And he had no known mental health history. Um, and then Texas Governor Abbott he says something completely different, that we must do a better job addressing mental health. So we have, you know, apparently a contradiction. So Abbott explaining this incident more completely, through mental health. So it's because this man was disturbed that he shot all those people, and he actually went further to support his uh, precarious viewpoints. He went further. He said that anyone who shoots another person has mental problems, and that was extremely stupid because that means, that all those police guys who shot anyone, including those who deserve to be shot, let's say, they also have mental problems. That also means, I mean, what he said. It also means that I don't know, people in war who may be defending their own country and who unfortunately kill someone. Um, that means that they also have problems. Sorry for this. It only means that I'm completely live. And yeah, I mean, it's really it's not even, it's just absurd what he said about mental health and shooting at someone. And he had to say that because obviously the guy, I don't remember his name, but the guy the perpetrator, he has no known mental health history, and that is something. Although of course he could have been undiagnosed, it's not that rare, really. It's not rare. Um, but because that was the fact, Abbott dealt with it in an interesting way, in a really interesting way, and I think he actually, he had to do that because otherwise it would be the whole discourse would be even more pointless. This way, it's kind of intrinsically it works together, it's coherent in a way, but its bases are inexistent in all respects. And then he said, so first of all, he said that we have to do more about the mental health to do a better job. I think it's that formulation simply doesn't suit the gravity of the situation. So we must do a better job. Um, Whereas people feel that this incident might give rise to more drastic changes, and probably more drastic changes are necessary to address this problem, and not to simply do a better job at addressing mental health. But that's what he said, and then he goes on actually to say that anyone who shoots another person has a mental problem. So that's how he kind of established that this guy, the perpetrator, was actually mentally ill, and that's the only reason. The only reason. Maybe he didn't say that, but that's the bottom line, and that's what people understand actually from this. Could understand from his discourse. To be honest, I didn't listen to all of his words or what he had to say. I guess this meeting was extremely long, so I didn't actually listen to all of it. But I think this was taken out by NBC, so it was like this short excerpt, snippet from his whole dressing, and it is pretty interesting that it only receives. So after 3 days, it only received 4,000 views. So it's not something people search for, and it's not something that people probably click when they see, because NBC, I think it's pretty big news. But who knows, Uh, Also, we have a lot of information about this, a lot of videos, people talking about it, me myself included. So yeah, there was a lot of info. Not every piece of content about it could have gone, uh, you know, covered and noticed by the audience. But I noticed it, and yeah. So by making this internally coherent argument uh, about mental health, first of all, in Texas or in whole of America, I didn't understand that part to details. But in any case, Abbott first wanted to establish the big truth coming from years of his expertise, working probably as a psychologist, something, because otherwise he wouldn't have that experience. What he experienced is that in probably in US in general, and of course in Texas, before they had a very good society which wasn't plagued by mental health issues, and all of a sudden, probably recently, um, uh, they started having these problems, and um, it's because of these problems, mental health issues, and especially among teenagers, that Texas now faced a big incident, a big tragedy, and probably, the whole of America probably faces the same problems because of mental health and not dealing with mental health, and that, you know, by dealing with mental health issues, we will solve this problem. This all sounds very nice, and it even sounds kind of inclusive and, aware of mental health issues and all that. But what Abbott is really is doing, he's making a scapegoat. He's using a scapegoat, actually using mental health as a scapegoat, and defending the interests of a very powerful lobby group of people in Texas. Of course, those involved in any way with the gun business, which of course is extremely big, probably billions of dollars. So a lot of money is involved, and Abbott has to be very careful. And he, you know, he probably he doesn't even have a permission to concede, to make some concessions um, to the opposite party who want stricter regulations. I think no concessions will be made, at least from their perspective, can be made. Um, so he had to find a very a very clear object or thing or entity to shift the blame to, and of course this is mental health. Now, what does research say about this? Now, don't take me for granted. Everything will be in the description, all references, all that. I'm talking, to be honest, now a bit freestyle, but I know all these things to be very true. For instance, you cannot you cannot say mental health equals violence. That is not, of course, true. And whenever you hear, generalized claims or claims that kind of aim towards generalization, you have to be a bit wary and careful. So mental health doesn't equal violence, and because you can make the case for the opposite. There are people, for instance, people who have generalized anxiety disorder. You have people who have agoraphobia. You have obsessive compulsive people, and